You are listening to the Fairways and Fundraising podcast, powered by Golf Event Planning, discussing charity fundraising and successful golf outings, along with tips and tricks of the trade. Now here's your host, Larry Battaglia.
Hello, and welcome to Fairways and Fundraising, powered by Golf Event Planning. I'm your host, Larry Battaglia. This is episode number 23. Today we have remote session, quarantine edition. A good friend of mine I've known this gentleman now for about 15 years or so. Met him in the restaurant business, actually, and now we do a lot of golf outing promotions together. The creator and founder of Murph's Bloody Mary Mix, Stephen Murphy, a.k.a. the Murph. How you doing, Murph?
Good morning, Larry. Great to be on your show. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure, man. Great to have you. Sorry it's under these circumstances that we're doing a remote session, but hopefully soon we'll be able to see each other again and have a few laughs, maybe a few drinks, and get out on the golf course again with these great promotions that you do. So let's talk about how you and I met. We met in the restaurant industry, local guys on Long Island in New York here. I know something came to you, right, when you'd go to a restaurant maybe and ask for a Bloody Mary, and it was kind of like your standard Bloody Mary. Well, you've taken the Bloody Mary and really elevated its game, haven't you, with Murph's Bloody Mary Mix? How'd you come up with it?
Thanks for the intro, Larry. Really, and I love telling the story, by the way.
It's a great story.
So if you'll indulge me, it started with a family recipe. Back when I was a kid, my father, growing up in the 70s, my father used to make a big deal about the Bloody Mary, and he actually used a blender. He would start with tomatoes and water. So he really, really would get down to the raw ingredients and just add his ingredients. And as a kid, I used to be very fond of his passion. So I kind of acquired that passion growing up now in the 80s and be able to drink. I would use that family recipe and just simply share it with family and friends. And I admittedly got passionate about the quality of the mix. And by the way, I like Bloody Marys. I like tomato juice. So it was a natural fit for me. So I would say I was a little bit of an aficionado in those days. I thought I had a good recipe, but I wasn't ever thinking anything more than just sharing it with family and friends. However, as the years went on, I kept getting the same response, and that was, "Hey, Murph, you should bottle this." I kept hearing that over and over again. And really what triggered it, I got married. Now it's the 90s, right? I just took you through two and a half decades in about a minute. It's the 90s now. And I did what most people in the South Shore of Long Island do. I got married, I started having a family, and I joined a beach club. The beach club was really fascinating to me because that really triggered this into a business. And what happened at the beach club is, guys, I noticed guys on Saturday nights would be whooping it up, and they'd arrive Sunday morning, not feeling so great. I was the guy the next morning. I would get there early Sunday mornings and start whipping up Bloody Marys. As you know, a Bloody Mary is traditionally a hangover cure, the tail of the dog, as we always hear. And it's the first thing someone would have in the morning if they were engaging in a cocktail, traditionally. So
basically getting back up on the horse again.
Pretty much, yes. So it was at the beach club where numerous amount of people told me, "Murph, you really should bottle this." And, I figured, wow, I have an entrepreneurial spirit to me. And I said, wow, maybe I'll just take them up on that offer. So what I did next, Larry, is I started going into supermarkets and seeing what was going on with some of the leading brands. And it hit me almost like a brick in the head right away. It didn't take me long to figure out there was numerous weaknesses in that field. The weaknesses were one, it was packed in a plastic bottle, okay? And number two, the contents inside of that bottle looked very watered. It didn't look like a high quality product. So there's two weaknesses. Number three is, and I don't know how to say this any bluntly than this, they all tasted like crap. They didn't taste very good. So there's number three. And Larry, as it's going on, I'm starting to stack this in my head. Number four is the overall look and appeal and consistency of the product inside the bottle. It just, again, to restate it, it didn't look like a high quality product. And based how they were positioned in the store, it was always, and it didn't take me long to figure out that Bloody Marys on a retail side were almost a forgotten about industry. It's not that someone is specifically going to walk into that store and go, I got to go right to the Bloody Mary section and get the Bloody Mary that they have available. That rarely happens. It's a by the way product. It's a, oh, you're throwing a party? Oh, make sure you get the beer, the ice, the wine. Oh, and by the way, get the Bloody Marys. Whatever brand they have, it doesn't really matter. Just get what they have on the shelf. Uncle Joe likes his Bloody Mary when he gets here, and we got to make sure we have it. It was that kind of culture that the Bloody Mary Arena served to. And again, I'm stacking all these weaknesses in my brain. I said, wow, what if I was to come out with a Bloody Mary with my recipe, package it in a glass bottle? That would bring up the appeal right away. What if, and again, this is a weakness, what if it actually looked and tasted good inside the bottle? The contents actually looked appealing and tasted good. What if it was all natural and no preservatives, where all the leading brands had tons of preservatives and stuff that label readers don't want in their body? So now, again, I'm stacking this in my brain. And then this is what pushed me over the edge, is there really was no Coke or Pepsi in the Bloody Mary arena. And I've challenged anybody, and Larry, you were in the restaurant field, and I probably back then, maybe 15 years ago when we met, could have said, hey, Larry, tell me what the leading brand of Bloody Marys is. And you're in that field, and I would be willing to bet you probably wouldn't be able to tell me. Maybe you would, but most people can't. So there was no brand that rolled off anybody's tongue. There was no brand that anybody remembered or a go-to brand. And I said, wow, what if I was to bring a branding element and bring personality into this arena? I said, I'll name it Murph's Famous, because people told me I had a famous recipe. So there was the branding element. And then the final element, the final piece of the puzzle, was to bring up a personality into the arena, because I wanted to have fun with it. I knew if I was going to do this, it was going to be a business. I was going to start it from ground zero. I wanted to have fun with my audience and have a connection to my audience and my customers. So and the analogy I use, we have furniture and then we have Bob's furniture. When I think of furniture, I think of Bob's furniture. But yet I think of Bob's because he's the personality. He infused his personality into furniture, if we can even dumb it down that way. So I just assumed the role of being that sort of personal connection. Yeah, my friend Murph, oh, no, I drink the Murphs. He's my buddy, even whether I know you or not. And that's kind of was the vision I created in my brain. And then I executed it, as you can see.
Yeah, something to take a vision like that, do all the research and see what was out there and also what wasn't out there, and then really make it into reality. I mean, there's got to be so many great stories that you must have of trying to build this brand from nothing and really put it out there to the masses.
Tons of them on any level, on the manufacturing level, on the level of trying to sell it into supermarkets. And then my favorite stories are the ones that you get to witness, is when I'm in front of an audience of golfers, golf event planning events, where, Larry, what do we do? I'm going to guess and say 10 to 12 to 13, 14 hours a year together. That's the fun part. I'm engaging audiences and they're enjoying the drink.
Yeah, all the events that we do year in, year out, try to put a good show on. And when the guys get there, the first thing they're doing is they're looking for the Murph's table. Where's the Murph's Bloody Mary mix? And I hear it not only from the golfers, but also my clients. When we're sitting there in our meetings after a great year, we're talking about the next year, the first thing they say is, oh, well, we got to get Murph's there again. It's the first thing that they're looking forward to that morning. It's kind of like it's Christmas Day, and this is the first present under the tree.
That's great to hear. And I'll go back to this. That was part of the vision, the original vision, that people would react that way. Because prior to that, the Murphs, they're not going to any golf outing. And they may say, we got to make sure we have the Bloody Marys, but they're not saying it by a brand name. So back to the original vision. Yeah, I wanted people. That was it. I wanted people to refer it by name, like a Coke or Pepsi, like a McDonald's or Burger King.
Yeah, and in the beginning, you started handing bottles out, if I'm not mistaken. Let's say you went to a bar or a restaurant and you would ask them for a Bloody Mary and you'd see what they were using. And they really didn't have any passion, as you mentioned earlier, the passion that your father had doing this, putting this recipe together, and the passion that you have. But it probably drove you a little crazy when you'd order a Bloody Mary and there was really no passion, and they would just tomato juice or pre-mix and vodka and just give it to you, where you're like, why don't you try this bottle, right?
Absolutely. And back to the lack, like you say, the lack of passion. The industry is sort of a boring, mundane industry. If someone's going to make a martini, they're going to prepare that with a passionate. I've seen people pour Guinnesses just out of a stout with passion and precision, as if there's a right way. Larry, you know this more than anybody else. There's a right way and a wrong way to pour a Guinness. And if a Guinness rep is sitting watching a bartender pour it the wrong way, that Guinness rep is going to have something to say about the way that Guinness was incorrectly poured, if I can use that as an analogy. Here I am sitting around watching bartenders make Bloody Marys with, say, a pre-mix from the bar. They pull out a plastic container. Who knows when someone actually mixed that? Who knows how long it's been sitting there? Yeah, it did bother me that they weren't using fresh ingredients. They were using something that, just give the customer this. Who really cares what it tastes like? So yeah, that did intrigue me and bother me, and it snapped me into action. Just politely give a bottle of Murph. Hey, why don't you try this? It's a more packaged product. It's got no preservatives in it. It's thick. It's rich. It's tasty. It's bold. It's consistent. I mean, in the bar business, it's consistent. That's all bar owners and restaurant owners strive for these days, is consistency. And I thought Murph solved that problem on the side of the Bloody Marys.
Yeah, and we always talk about quality testing with that consistency. So as you're trying to build this brand and hand out these, samples of your Bloody Mary mix, you're doing a lot of poor quality testing by tasting these terrible Bloody Marys for years, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Bingo.
So what made you continue to strive to sort of build this brand just from more of like a local community? I mean, you're in multiple states across the United States and many supermarkets. So let's touch on how you were able to sort of take this from maybe sort of a hobby into more of just building the brand of the Murph's Bloody Mary mix.
Cool, really cool. One thing I've noticed in business, and and people now, because Murph's is somewhat, known and popular around our parts, and people come to me, hey Murph, how do I start this brand? I like what you did. Murph, coach me. I'm trying to do X, Y, Z. And the first thing I say to that person is, I get it. You're excited about your product, your brand. You should be, but your excitement doesn't mean that it's on every shelf in every supermarket. And what determines that, a lot of things determine that, but really the market determines that. And that's what determined it for me, is I constantly was getting high praise on the brand. So the market was telling me, now forget about what I think. The market was telling me, hey Murph, you got something here that is special, is unique, is a game changer. And my family and friends really like it. And I'm just going to use this as an example. My cousin who lives in Maryland, who was here for our 4th of July party and tried Murph's, wants to know why he can't get it in Maryland. So that was a trigger of motivation for me, where my vision got more sharper rather than a hobby. Like you said, I said, wow, again, the market is dictating to me. The market is telling me my product would be in demand if it was available in their supermarkets. So then what I did is, I did what most micro small, as micro as small as just me. That's how small it was. I put together a friends and family investment package program. My partner, Phil, you've had some interactions, and Phil joined my team, and Phil was good at everything that I wasn't good. The operations, the dealing with the billing and accounts receivable. Larry, we know each other, your audience, we know each other a long time. Your audience doesn't know me very well. I'm that ambassador kind of guy. And when it comes to this brand, I want to be out in front of the people selling. So, we started a small friends and family sort of investment group, people who were excited about the brand. And with that, we took that money and we invested in marketing. We got a website. And the first thing we did is we tried to get with distributors, and distributors have something called trade shows. It's a distributor trade show where they invite their customers to the trade show. And anybody who's been to a trade show knows it's typically a 10 by 10 booth. Buyers and customers come up and down the aisles and you sample your product. That's kind of the genesis of how it started, Larry, from a hobby. I went to a small friends and family investment package, to marketing, to website, e-commerce, that kind of thing. And then I started hitting the streets. What I mean by the streets is trade shows where beverage buyers, restaurant beverage buyers, supermarket beverage buyers in that category would have a chance to see my product.
Yeah, and it's important to have a great team around you. I've certainly learned that over the years. You can't do it alone, but you are the face of the company, the ambassador. I mean, heck, your face is on the bottle. How'd that come to you? Whose idea was that?
That goes back to my graphic designer, Billy Goodspeed, who's a dear friend of mine who we grew up with. He had his own boutique graphic designer shop in New York City. And one of his big accounts was the New York Yankees, which I know is near and dear to your heart, Larry. And he had a lot of nice name brand accounts that he would work with. And I just loved his vision. I loved his ability to kind of, you throw him an idea and he makes it into a brand or a label like he did with me. And I called him up. I said, Billy, I got an idea I want to throw by. What is it? I said, Murph's famous Bloody Mary mix. What do you think? And I shut my mouth. And the next words that came out of his mouth was, get in my studio, which is in New York City. And I explicitly trust him so much, just knowing him as from childhood and knowing his work. I didn't ask a single question. What do you got in mind? Why do I need to come to your studio? I presented an idea. He said, here's your next step. I went to the studio. They started taking some photos of me. And next thing I know, about a week later, after those photos were taken, Billy shoots me back a label with my picture on it. And that said Murph's famous Bloody Mary mix. And did we tweak it and work with it? But the principal action was, Murph, here's your label. So that was really determined by my graphic designer, and not necessarily by myself. I did check off on it and agree to it. And there was some discomfort, admittedly, how people would react to it. Most people were favorable. I'm talking about the market now. Friends and family, people who were becoming aware that I was bringing this product to the market. And there were people who weren't so favorable about it. That's just the way life works. And I get it. I knew some criticism was coming my way, but I didn't care. I wanted to build a brand. I believed in his vision of having my picture on it. And that's what we went with.
Yeah, being an entrepreneur, you can't really concern yourself with the naysayers and the negativity out there. You're going to get that in anything in life. You just have to stick to your guns and keep your eye on the prize, and you certainly have done that. I just want to mention Murph's website is murphsfamous.com. They're on Instagram, always posting at Murph's Bloody Mary. You can also find them on Twitter at The Murph's Famous. That's THE Murph's Famous, and Facebook also at Murph's Famous. We hope you like this episode. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review. We appreciate it. Murph, you're all over the place. I'm in supermarkets constantly, especially now cooking all the time here at home with the quarantine and the COVID-19 crisis. And I see your product in every major supermarket I go in. Where can people find your product and get it? You're also doing some e-commerce stuff too now, right?
Yeah, right now, this interview, it's May 22nd. We're right in the middle of COVID 2020. So let me just tackle the second part of your question first. It's a hot topic. I think I was sharing with you prior to the podcast, Larry, how an offshoot of Murph's famous Bloody Mary mix is Murph's famous pepperoncini. And in the spirit of thinking outside the box, we wanted to bring another brand to the market. We brought pepperoncini to the market, and we introduced it as a garnish for Murph's. Of course, people use peppers for other things like sandwiches and salads and cooking, and we encourage that as well. That's how we came up with the pepperoncini. So just kind of how buying behavior has just switched almost overnight. From September 2019 to January 2020, when I got started with the pepperoncini, I immediately went to e-commerce on Amazon, and I sold maybe 3 cases over that 5-month period. From February 1st to this morning, I've sold on the pepperoncini side alone probably 75, 80 cases just in the last 3 months. And that is without any advertising. That's without any Google ads or anything. Just we had a store as we did in September, as we do today, the same store. It just, what happened is the buying psychology of the public has severely shifted and shown us that people want to do more buying online. People are, as you said, Larry, people are stocking their cabinets with anything possible.
Yeah, and some people aren't leaving the house. It's very convenient for them to just go on to Amazon and just, they wait for that truck every day to pull up with, whether it's groceries or something they ordered, but, in the comfort of their own home where they can get what they need for the house.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In all regards. So They're stocking up on the Murph peppers. That I could tell you. The first part of your question was what Murph's obviously started in Long Island, where you and I both live and grew up. And, I started with local stores here. And by the way, I've seen you shopping with Christine in these stores. One particularly, I think I've seen you, 3 or 4 times in Stu Leonard's while I was doing consumer engagement and tastings.
You're always out there in the public doing these promotional tastings to really highlight your product. It's tireless energy that, it never stops. Weekends, days, nights, you even travel and do some shows.
Yeah, it's fun. Well, that goes back to the fun. Fun engaging and seeing people out there, in the stores and people Is it a grind? Yeah, I'm not going to lie. It's a grind. Of course it is. But it's fun. And I always wanted it to be fun part of the product. But, other than Stu Leonard's here locally, shops like supermarkets like Uncle Giuseppe's, Ivarone Brothers, North Shore Farms, more chain stores like Stop and Shop, King Cullen. Wegmans is one of my favorite and most successful accounts. On the big box store side, we have Target here in the Northeast. We're probably in about 400 Target stores. The volume has been so good. We have our fingers crossed. We are hopeful, but yet expect at one time in the future, Target, because of the performance of Murph in the Northeast, is going to give us increased Murphs into different regions, like the Midwest, like the Southeast. In Maryland, there are some Wegmans down there. In Virginia, there are some Wegmans down there. I'm sure you know, Larry, Wegmans is a very high-end, popular supermarket chain. They're one of the most highly regarded chains in the country. There's only about 110 stores, but everyone in the supermarket industry wants to know what Wegmans is doing. They're family owned by the Wegmans family, and they're a terrific shop. So we are growing in the Northeast. Down in Florida, for your listeners down there, there's a liquor store chain called ABC Wine and Spirits. And there's about 140 of them throughout the state of Florida. If you talk to anybody in Florida, I pass one every day on the way to work. There's one almost in every town. So we do a nice piece of business with ABC down in Florida, which is nice. I'm trying to think in the Maryland area, we have Giant Stores, which is a nice chain. In the Maryland area, they call that the Mid-Atlantic, which people go to Giant. There's Weiss stores, there's Tops. We're in about 29, 30 states, and we're looking to grow.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, that's everywhere. But you're also probably focused on all the other states that you aren't in, and the supermarkets you haven't touched yet. But that is absolutely incredible that you're able to get your brand out there to so many different big box stores and supermarkets, and then you're still doing the little local tastings. I mean, I can tell you our golf outings. Every single golf outing we run, it's like, got to have the Murphs there. And then there's other golf outings that you do and other promotional shows. So you can't do it alone. So you came up with the Murphettes, huh? Let's talk about some of the Murphettes that participate to provide these tastings for the customers.
Yeah, again, always keeping it in the fun spirit of promoting the brand. When I started the golf outings, it was almost like I would come to you or people I knew. It was the beginning of the brand development. If someone was running a golf outing and I knew them, I'd say, hey, can I set up a Bloody Mary station at your golf outing? And I did that, if you don't mind, and you'll indulge me. I just want to get to the psychology why. And the psychology is very simple. Is in the morning, golf outings, as you know, usually ran on a Monday. Sometimes they're Thursday, but I would say 95% of them are on Mondays. And it's the extension of a weekend, typically in the spring or summer. And the weekends usually are filled with fun and partying and family and friends. And when someone knows they're going to a golf outing, that's one more day, and they're not in their office or at their jobs. They're at the golf outing.
It's an extended weekend for them.
It's an extended weekend. So the first thing and the first engagement as they check into the golf outing, if part of that engagement is seeing the Murph's station and table, well, I know this, and I cherish those 2.5, 3 hours. I own that market. And the reason is Bloody Marys, and I knew this going in, is people are going to have 1 or 2. They're not going to have 7. It just doesn't work that way. But when they have it, it's 95% in the morning. It's their first drink they're going to have. And here's the key, Larry, and I mean this. It's socially acceptable to drink a Bloody Mary at 10:30 in the morning, where if some guy's got a Budweiser or a vodka and tonic or a Heineken in his hand at 10:30 in the morning, I'm just telling you, society and people around him are not going to look at that person too favorably. But yet, you put a Bloody Mary in the guy's hand, he's the most popular guy in the room. And that's just the way that psychology works. But at 1:30, because I know when you run outings, you're there from 8 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. You cover the A to Z. When 1:30 comes and someone wants a beverage, on the golf outing, they're not looking for a Bloody Mary. They're looking for that Heineken. They're looking for that vodka tonic kind of deal. So those 2 to 3 hours are Murph time. Let's just call it Murph time.
When you're running these events at these private clubs, the bar isn't always open in the morning for these guests. The package that the charities pay for doesn't include open bar until maybe cocktail hour. So to have these great tastings like the Murph's Bloody Mary mix in the morning at your golf outing, not only is it a showcase, but it's an added value that you're providing to the golfers, where if we didn't have the Murphs there would be no other option. There'd be no drinks in the morning. There'd be no interaction. There's no bartender there until the late afternoon or evening. So it's just a great way for these organizations having a golf event fundraiser to provide that fun and excitement right off the bat, right at the start of the day.
Yep. And the engagement that we offer, back to the Murphettes for a second, because I really didn't answer that question, is as this grew, as you know, here in Long Island, Larry, almost every country club is having an outing. And how many country clubs do we have? You would probably know better than I can't even tell you how many clubs and private and public clubs we have here in Long Island. I don't even know the answer. But we know this, everyone's having a golf outing. So I would, as a group, I got 2 outings on that day. Now I got 3 outings on that day. Now I got 4 outings on that day. So I would always want to be at one of them. And if it was a golf event planning golf outing, of course, because you're such a big supporter to the Murphs and the brand, and we do probably 15, 16 outings each year together. But I would need, representatives at the other outings because they're all happening at the same time. And like I said, those 2 to 3 hours are crucial. It's crucial we're there between 9 and 12. So I would find promotional girls, very professional, very friendly, to represent my brand. So we would have maybe 3 or 4 tables going to 3 or 4 golf outings, all doing the same thing. Just a very professional looking table in the dining room area. Sometimes, like Larry, like you would say, Murph, here's your better positioning. You want to be by registration, or you want to be by the putting green, but it's somewhere visual. We're not forcing any Bloody Marys down anybody's throat. It's optional. It's engagement. The golfer or the person at the outing, the attendee of the outing, just if they want, they engage the Murph representative. They order a Bloody Mary and they get one complimentary. And that's kind of how it works. So it's a very casual sort of promotional. We're not running around the room with samples or anything like that. It's very professional.
It basically started with one flavor, the original flavor, but now, you have a spicy version, you have recipes, you have the peppers.
Yeah, and again, that's back to the market. Again, it doesn't really matter what I think and feel. I react to what the market tells me. And early on, 2 things I heard over and over was, Murph, listen, I'm not just saying it because it's you. I cook with this. I marinate with this. And I would scratch my head and say, really, you do? What do you do? Well, I marinate a steak. I make my meatloaf with it. I made gazpacho. I added it to my chili. It was the perfect additive, because your brand tastes so good. Chefs use it. So it really got me thinking. And it's a huge part of my marketing now, based on what the market dictated to me, was, hey, by the way, it is a Bloody Mary. And I have a TV commercial that you can see on my website that kind of gives you the both uses. Hey, everybody, it's a great Bloody Mary, but I also used to cook and marinate with it. So yeah, and again, that was all dictated by the market. Second to that, Larry, was, hey, Murph, you need to come out with a hot and spicy. Because typically my Murph's Original has a little bit of a kick to it, nothing overpowering. Typically, people look for that in a Bloody Mary. But in this world of the hot and spicy world that we live in, it's 2 buzzwords that turn people on. Hot and spicy, hot and spicy. Again, hearing my audience, I came out with a hot and spicy version of Murph's, which gave me 2 SKUs. And what that also does is it gives me more facings in a supermarket. So rather than, if I'm in a supermarket, rather than have 1 facing of just Murph's Original, I have Murph's Original, and then I have Murph's Hot and Spicy, which is called 2 facings, which I didn't know any of this before Murph's. It's critical in building a brand that's consuming more real estate in the supermarket, and how a consumer would look at your brand. If they see 1 facing, oh, it's nice. That's very nice that you got on the shelf, Murph, but you're a one-trick pony. If they see 2 facings, they now immediately gain a little bit more respect for your brand because you're showing the consumer more options. You're showing more real estate. You're taking up that real estate is really what you're doing. And then, of course, we talked about it earlier. We came out with the peppers as an additive. And we saw, by the way, we looked at the pepperoncini industry is also boring and mundane. Who goes out and buys pepperoncini by a brand name? So again, we implemented the success story we had with the Bloody Marys. Let's institute a brand and a personality that people can connect to in the Bloody Mary arena. And we took that philosophy and we took it to the pepperoncini industry. Oh, you know what? There's this brand, there's that brand, there's this brand, A, B, C, X, Y, Z. Who cares? Just get me the pepperoncinis. Oh, wait, now there's Murph's brand. And of course, they're very high quality. They're great, trust me. But I'm just coming from a branding perspective. You know, again, it gives a little bit of a bright light. There's a personality. There's a guy named Murph. I want to try his peppers. So pretty cool stuff. And again, keeping in the spirit of fun. We always do that here at Murph's. We want to keep it fun.
Again, the website is murphsfamous.com. You also can get your Murphs in many of the local supermarkets, wherever you live in 29 states, as Murph mentioned. He's also on Amazon, so you can order right from the comfort of your own home. We hope you like this episode. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review. We appreciate it. And also, speaking of golf, Murph, we talked so much about golf outings. You know, you got some game too, man. You know, you and I have played many years ago. You know, you love golf. It's a passion too.
Yeah. Well, you know, growing up in the South Shore of Long Island, my father, you know, the same guy who was teaching me how to make Bloody Marys, also teach me how to get to work very early on. And we had a country club near our where I grew up called Sea Wayne Country Club, which I know, Larry, you're very familiar with. And I think when I was in 7th or 8th grade, somewhere around there, I was directed by Bloody Mary Don, my father, that I needed to go start caddying. So I had a very early introduction to golf than most people on Long Island. Everyone was still playing baseball, basketball, and football, the three majors. Very few people were playing golf or interested in golf. But being an athlete like you are, like I am, and interested in sports, I got introduced to golf at a very early age. And naturally, being around working at a golf course, the next thing you're going to do is any free time, you're going to grab a club and start practicing on their range and try to play. So yeah, I did develop a little. I wouldn't say I know that you are a golf professional and you are really good. I would say that, you know, I developed a little bit of a game where I was a pretty good golfer, but I'm no Larry Battaglia, I'll tell you that much.
Hey, easy now, easy. I got to tell you, the day we played, you and I ham and egged it, and I think we won the golf outing that we played in over at Indian Hills.
I remember it well.
Yeah,
Yep.
a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Again, we'll have all the links in our show notes to Murph's website and all his social media handles. Again, Murph, just want to say that obviously we're going through some tough times. Everything has been on hold here, a lot of these golf outings, but hopefully we'll get back out there again and start seeing the golfers enjoying the mix. What's some of your favorite memories of some of the golf outings we've done together?
Not to plug golf event planning, but some of the memories are how professional you and Christine and your team run an outing. You know, the orange shirts, the uniformity, the professionalism, and then watching your growth of now you're into the iPad registration. Someone can register for your outing from their car on the way there through an app. That's really cool. And Larry, the building of our personal relationship through your golf event planning and Murph's, how we've become very closer as friends and business colleagues through the years. You know, it's stuff like that. Just seeing people at these outings, which I love. I love consumer engagement. And I love seeing people that I know from my past show up at these outings and seeing them again and restarting relationships and reconnecting. It gives me a venue to do what I do best, which is network, something you know a lot about, networking. So all that constantly being out front of the public and the different events I do, it's just fun. I can't put one over the other. However, it really comes down to being proud of the brand, being requested by people like yourself. It would be nice to have you. You're not saying that. You're like, Murph, you need to be at this outing at 8:30, not a minute later. You need to be set up by 9. And by 9:01, I want you to be serving Bloody Marys on the dot. That's the way you run it. And that's me being in high demand. I love that too. So the stories are really that I cherish are, I'm on your podcast right now and grateful to be so just because of Murph's Bloody Mary. I mean, your entrepreneurship and my entrepreneurship meshed, and now we're doing a podcast together. That's a great story right there.
Yeah, I agree with you. And thank you so much for the kind words. I always say, you know, you're only as good as the team that's around you. And I feel that way with all our partnerships, vendors, and relationships that we have, not only with our clients, but with our vendor partners, such as the Murph's Bloody Mary Mix. You mentioned how organized the events are, let's say that we're running, and there's so many things going on, but I think that it's those things as well as providing them with a great experience, which leads back to, the first great drink of the day is going to be a great Bloody Mary when they get to breakfast. I think it leaves an impression. The iPad check-in, and then they get maybe a nice golf gift, and then they get served a drink. What a great day that is, and it's only 10 minutes into their golf outing day. They haven't even teed it up yet or hit the range. So I do think it's a great partnership that we have. It's something that when I speak to clients, you got to have the Murph's Bloody Mary mix at your event. And they say, Murph's, I've never heard of it. I said, you don't know the Murph? And even though there's so many people I meet that know you and know the brand, there's still so many people that don't. And I'm hoping that we're trying to get that name recognition out there for you through the golf outing market.
It's certainly working, Larry. Trust me, it is fun, and I wouldn't be, if it wasn't productive on all levels. I wouldn't be doing it. It really is an effective way to build at least my brand. And again, maybe overstated. It's fun and enjoyable to do so. It really is.
Yeah. So Murph, again, back to the e-commerce side. Explain again to our listeners exactly how they can find you right from their phone.
There's really two ways. One is they can go to Murph's famous BloodyMaryMix.com, which is a pretty cool site. There's commercials. There's some of the media that I've done, some of the TV shows that I've been so fortunate and grateful to be on are all in there on Murph TV. So in the spirit of Murph's, you go to the website, you will be treated to some enjoyment. It runs right in line with everything I do. I want someone to have a good experience, and I think the website does fulfill that.
I love all your commercials, by the way, especially the one where the guy comes in with two ladies on his arm.
Well, because
I think we know that guy.
Mike Monet, yes. And of course, the only reason he got two ladies on his arm because he drinks Murph's. So the site, MurphsFamous.com, cool experience there. Or you could skip that part if you'd like and just go to Amazon and type in Murph's Famous Bloody Mary, Murph's Famous. It will come right up. Our peppers are on the first page of Amazon if you just Google the peppers. But if you Google the Bloody Marys, I think we're on the second page and moving up the ranks. So we have a store, and there's options on the Amazon store. You can buy one bottle, you can buy two bottles, you can buy a 3-pack. You also can buy what we have is called a party box, a very nicely Murph spirited packaged sort of gift box, or we call it party in a box. It's a Murph's hot and spicy and a Murph's original, and in between there, and you can see it on Amazon, you can see the pictures of it, is the Murph's pepperoncini. And it's pretty cool packed. You can get it for someone as a gift. You can show up at a party with it. I guarantee you, if you walk in the door with a Murph's gift box at any given party, for the first 5 to 7 minutes, you'll be the most popular person at that party. It's kind of a big splash kind of packaging kind of deal, yet professional and nice. So yeah, it's very easy. If you live outside the areas of where Murph doesn't yet have it on the shelves of the supermarket, it's very easy attainable through Amazon and my website.
Okay, awesome. And I'm a fan. I never really drank Bloody Marys. Wasn't a huge fan of them until I started having your mix. And I mean, it's so damn good. If you haven't tried it, you got to get yourself a Murph's Famous Bloody Mary mix cocktail and enjoy. And again, while we're trying to stay safe at home, you can order right from your phone. You can go right to their website at murphsfamous.com. We'll have all the links in our show notes, so please make sure you check them out. Again, Murph, thanks very much, man. I'm looking forward to continued success of both of our businesses as we get through this and come out of it stronger than ever.
Myself as well, Larry. Real pleasure to be on your show. It was a pleasure talking and chit-chatting. And yes, I'm looking forward to getting back to whatever the new normal may be. But, it's funny. I did a show or an interview earlier this week. This just kind of came up in conversation. You and I would classify as outside the box thinkers. Well, outside the box thinkers in this new normal have to think even more outside the box and adapt to what society and the new world is bringing us in terms of building our personal brands. We think outside the box, we got to, think more outside the box on the way to get our message out. So, these podcasts are great. You're helping build your brand and you're helping others like myself build my brand. You're bringing awareness. So pretty thankful and grateful to be on your show today, Larry. Really am. Thank you.
I appreciate it, Murph. It was very, very kind, and two friends helping each other out. Again, the Murph's famous Bloody Mary mix. Check them out. We'll have all the links to all their social handles in our show notes. Again, Murph got the best Bloody Mary mix around. Look for it by name. Ciao, ciao for now.
Thank you for listening to the Fairways in Fundraising podcast, powered by Gulf Event Planning. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and please remember to subscribe, rate, and review.